we'll fix in for 2 years on this level of interest rate, or we'll fix in for 5 years, and then you renew your mortgage in those periods.
So they didn't see any of the hikes that other people saw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe you took out a 2-year mortgage back in 2020, for example, and then you've got a remortgage in 2022 when interest rates have peaked, and then you're like, our costs are going to go through the roof. Yeah. So it's a tough thing to try and predict.
Yeah.
Obviously, the longer the term you can get, if you're happy and the rate is affordable, normally a good thing to do, because you're fixing in something you know is affordable.
So you're saying 50% is around a good amount of your monthly income that you should be paying towards your rent and your bills and so on.
Yeah, rent, bills, car, and then you've got another sort of 30% that you'd spend on food and clothing and entertainment and subscriptions and things, and then general additional living costs, and maybe a little bit towards holiday funds. And then ideally, I know 20% might sound like a lot, but that's ideally what you should be putting into your long-term savings.
Okay.
And that includes what you put into your pension. So if an employer is paying in a good chunk into your pension, you include that as well.
Do you think a lot of people are probably living over that 50%, to be honest?
I've no doubt that lots of people are. Yeah.
Because, young people can't wait to move out. That's one thing they try and do, and they do it too early.
Yeah.
They realise the cost, they're living in single rooms in people's houses for like £600-700 a month. They've just entered the working world.
Yeah.
They're making like just under $2,000 a month. They've got all these things. They've always wanted this latest phone. Phone bills are like, for the latest iPhone, like £90 a month. I've seen contracts for ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
They never existed before, but
again, it's one of those things in the iPhone. Apple have made it almost like it's almost become like an essential.
Yeah.
You have to have the newest iPhone. You don't have to have it.
No.
But if you want to participate in, social media and everything else, then all of this new technology is all on these new phones. Mm-hmm. And you do feel, I understand you would feel very sort of left behind if you weren't keeping up with that.
Exactly. Like imagine earning $2,000 a month, £700 on rent, £100 on your phone, £100 on little things like all the little subscriptions that you have.
If you're paying for a car.
So on, car insurance.
Yeah.
That's crazy when you think about it. I like to try and buy things outright.
Yeah.
If I can. I bought my car. I bought it outright. I had to save for it.
Yeah.
But I'd rather that than paying interest.
Buying anything outright is it is obviously so much better. You can scale that right up to buying houses, and it's one of the things that you don't really think about, but we touched on it earlier around the rich and poor divide, and the rich staying richer and the poor staying poorer. If you were to buy a £300,000 house, but you were rich and you had £300,000 in cash that you could buy it with, that house costs you £300,000 plus a little bit of legal fees. If you haven't got £300,000 in cash, which most of us don't have, that house is going to cost you closer to £500,000 once you add on all the interest that you pay every year for those next 35 years.
Crazy.
So things are just cheaper if you have the money already.
Yeah. And it's really hard to probably save £300,000 as well. A lot of people probably could do it.
You can save £300,000
for a long time. Though, So, but it's just best if you do have like a 30-year mortgage to just, if you have the extra money, make extra payments when you can to try and turn that 30 years down into 25 years, 20 years, 15 years. Just do what you can to save that future interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sound advice.
Definitely very expensive. So if someone had £30,000, what would you recommend? They take out a mortgage or continue to rent?
Oh, so they wanted to buy a house?
So they're currently renting, but they got £30,000 saved in the bank. They're thinking to either buy a house or continue to rent. They don't know what's better for their situation.
There's pros and cons to both. I mean, renting allows for more flexibility. You're not taking on a huge amount of debt with a mortgage. This country is a little bit obsessed with property ownership.
Yeah.
And that has come with some negatives as well. There's so much illiquid wealth in this country trapped in home ownership.
Yeah.
Not only does that mean that it's harder for younger people to buy first homes because the house prices have gone through the roof, but it's also just locked away all of this wealth which could be invested in the country and helping our economy. If you go across to the continent, somewhere like Germany, there's a very different mentality there. Most people over there rent, and they're absolutely fine with it.
Yeah.
There's this sort of obsession about owning a property. That being said, just financially, of course, it's probably better to be paying into an asset that you own. You know, if the majority of what you're paying each month is actually just a repayment on an asset which is going to be yours, which hopefully would appreciate over time, then yes, that's better than throwing away more money than that and giving it to somebody else to help pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
So, typically, if buying a house is something that is a goal for you, then
So a situation I saw the other day, which points me more in the mortgage direction, is my grandparents, one of their friends.
Yeah.
He's like in his 80s now, but he's actually living in a shared house, in a single room.
Yeah. Renting,
yes. After years of, not having a property.
Yeah.
And, he's at an age where he's only receiving a pension now, so he doesn't really have an income.
Sure.
So he's only able to spend what he can afford, which is from the state pension.
Yeah.
So therefore, he could only afford living in a shared house.
Sure.
Which I think is something I really don't want to be doing at that age, especially if I have a family and, it's just not something I want to do. And I don't think a lot of people want to do it. So I do think the mortgage route is something that will help you in the future if it's just for somewhere to live.
Yeah, obviously, particularly with a family, it offers security, it offers, ownership in something. It's just, it's hard to get away from the fact that it's more difficult now to buy a house than ever. And I don't want people to despair if they're not able to make that work. Mm-hmm. Renting and ownership are just two different routes of living in a property. Yeah, in an ideal world, you'd own the property.
Yeah. And
you'd pay off that debt and it would be yours in the future, so that when you're retired, you're comfortable in a house that is owned by you.
Exactly.
Exactly. If you can work towards that and that's what you want to do, then great.
I guess we're not as fortunate as our grandparents as well, because the thing is, he's from my grandparents' generation.
Yeah.
And he should have went for a house back then, because my grandparents bought their